Today, I'm going to show you how you can run your Python code that requires external dependencies in AWS Lambda. Here I have an example Lambda that just uses a simple requests dependency, which you probably will need on almost every project. But if you can see, here we got the error message that says unable to import module, no module named requests. And that's because AWS Lambda only includes Boto3 dependency in its runtime. What they basically recommend is that you package your application along with all the other dependencies in a zip file and then upload it. So let me show you how to make it much easier for you so you don't have to do it manually. We can basically do it in one command, then just upload the zip file and be done with it. So if we go to Visual Studio Code, you can see I just called it Python Lambda install dependencies folder here, and it contains 4 files, which we only care about 3 of them. The Lambda function itself. Then for each dependency that we want to include to be uploaded to the AWS Lambda, we define it in this requirements.txt file. And it does ask us for the versions that we want to install. So if you're unsure, then you can just go and Google, for example, requests pip version, and then you will just go on pypy.org and see which version is the latest. Or you may not need the latest, then you just include the one that you want. If you go back to VS Code, the remaining file is called Makefile. And Makefile basically lets us automate some commands that we would typically run in the terminal. Let me show you what's actually happening here. First, we define some global variables here. Then we specify what's called target needs to be executed when we just run the make command, which we just say we're going to run package. The package target relies on the dependencies target, and the dependencies target relies on V. First, we create a Python virtual environment. That way, we don't have a bunch of bloatware on our computer. We can just have it all installed in the environment, and then when we're done with the environment, we just delete it, and we don't have all of this junk on our computer. After creating the environment, we're actually installing all of these dependencies that we defined in the requirements.txt file. And then the last thing, we package first all of these dependencies that were just installed into a zip file, and then we add our Lambda into the same zip file. I also defined this clean command, so we can actually include it in the default, so it runs before we run package. So every time we run make command, it's gonna run clean to remove the environment, remove the zip file, so we always have the fresh version. And then we package it. I'm going to post this Makefile content in a gist, so you can just copy paste it, and all you will have to do is just basically run the make command, and it will tell you what it's doing. So now it's installing the requirements, then it finally packaged the zip file, and you can see it right here. So now we can go back to our Lambda function. We can click upload from zip file, and then we can upload this, click save. And now we can refresh this page, accept. It basically told us that things have changed and deployed in another editor. So we just say accept. So we can view the latest version of this Lambda. And now, as you can see, we have all of these dependencies included because requests can rely on other dependencies, so everything we need should be included here. If you click deploy, it says no changes to deploy because when you upload the zip file, I guess it automatically deploys. So now we can test the function again. It doesn't really matter what we pass in here. Obviously, if your function relies on like S3 uploads or events from SQS, then it may matter to you. Our function currently doesn't. So we just click invoke, and as you can see, we did receive the response. So instead of getting the error, we now have our function working. If you are running into something like Lambda function module not found, then you may want to scroll down to runtime settings and make sure that in your handler, you specify the whole path to the handler. So in our case, it's lambda.lambda function.lambda handler. Here, if you can see the structure, at the root level, we have the Lambda folder, we have the Lambda function Python file, and then the actual handler is called Lambda handler. So just if in case you run into this error, just change the handler info. Of course, you can automate this process even further. You can, for example, if you're using GitHub, You can create a GitHub action that runs this Makefile and then uploads the zip file to S3 bucket, and then you can have some deployment that takes the file from S3 bucket, puts it in Lambda, and then you have the fully automated Lambda deployment. And if you want to learn how to use GitHub Actions with AWS without having to store any credentials, then watch this video.